the wonderful introduction, Ephraim, and thank you for the warm welcome here to Word of Life Congregation. Thank you particularly to Pastor McNair and to all those who are members of this congregation for opening your home to us here tonight. And thank you also again to all of you who came out tonight to discuss the important issues that are in front of us in this nation. And of course, healthcare being one of the most important issues facing us. And I think we'll have a great discussion. I know some of you have actually been in my other town halls and not felt like being able to ask your question. It looks like the crowd tonight is a size that hopefully everybody who wants to ask a question can do so, and I think we'll have a really good discussion here going forward. So I look forward to that tonight. First of all, I want to just give a brief introduction. And those of you who've been in my other town halls are going to hear me repeat some of the things I repeated there. But I want to talk a little bit about a few things that people ask about health care. And, you know, as I look at health care reform, I think back to my campaign. And I think back to how many people talked to me about the need for health care reform as I was campaigning. And it was citizens, and it was businesses, and it was people in nonprofits, and it was just about, it was medical providers. Everyone I talked to just about said, you know, we cannot sustain the system as it is. And so we have moved this need to reform healthcare down the road many, many times. Certainly, we know that the Clintons tried in the 90s to do healthcare reform. That failed, and we continue to see issues within our healthcare system that have not been addressed. So here we are in 2009, and we're talking about healthcare reform. And as I said earlier today at my earlier forum, I said, you know, I'm not willing to kick this down the road any farther. I believe we have got to reform the system so that we can bring stability and security to all Americans when it comes to health care. You know, when we look at some of the statistics, they're frightening in a lot of ways. You know, we have, it's estimated, and that number varies, and people have questioned me on the number, 47 million uninsured. Maybe it's not 47 million, but it's tens of millions, and we know that. That's a lot of people who are uninsured. We have a lot of people who are underinsured. I can tell you as a business person, each year as I would look at the healthcare plans that our broker would bring to us, and the prices were going up, sometimes 24% in 1 year, the premiums. And so we'd have to say, well, we have to go with a larger deductible. We'd have to make sacrifices here or there. People are going to have to pay more for their premiums. And so as a small business person, it was very difficult for me to have to make those decisions, knowing that my employees could barely afford what they have, but we have to look at how we can, you know, continue to offer something. And so we would have to offer less and less every year. And I know many other businesses have made a very difficult decision to not even offer anything. And they just leave their employees off to try to figure out what to do on their own. So healthcare reform is something that's been talked about for a long time. It's not a new issue. Some people say, well, why are you rushing it? I don't think we're really rushing it. We've talked about it for many, many years. Just last year alone, I think there were 72 hearings in Congress before I got there. This year we've had, I forget the exact number, but I want to say it's something maybe about 30, 35, 40 hearings on healthcare. So we've had many, many hearings in Congress. We've been discussing this for a long time, and now I believe it's time for action. With that being said, there was a push for us to vote on health care reform out of the House before we left for our August district work period. And many of us felt that was too quick. We felt we needed to understand the bill, which I have right here. The bill was sent out to us was put out on July 14th, and we recessed, I think, on the 30th of July. And so, certainly I could read 1,000 pages in that amount of time, but to truly understand it, we wanted to have more time to really read it. And also, I wanted to have time to go back and talk to my constituents about it. Explain the bill, explain what's in it, and get your feedback and your input. Now, in terms of the reading of it, I always like to show what the bill looks like, because people sometimes don't think you can read 1,000 pages, but it's double-spaced, it's big letters, it is over 1,000 pages, but obviously, if I couldn't read 1,000 pages in a couple weeks, then I shouldn't be your Congresswoman. So I have been reading it and rereading it and going through and making notes, and as people ask me questions, I go back and try to reread sections. And if anyone else would like to read it, it is on my website. dahlkemper.house.gov, and it's a PDF, and you can go on there and read it, or you can download it, and you can read it whenever you have a few extra minutes or can't sleep at night. So, but it is certainly something that can be read. There are some references to other bills, but for the most part, it's not a difficult read. So I wanted to just address that because people want to say, have you read the bill? And so I was glad that we slowed it down. And I was glad that we had this August time to come back and really talk to our constituents. And we will go back in September. Right now, this bill has come out of the 3 committees in the House that deal with this piece of legislation. But it's still not reconciled in the House. We don't have a bill that we can take to the floor yet. So those 3 committees have got to reconcile what they brought out of committee, and then we will come to the House floor, and then there will be debate on the bill. Amendments will be proposed and added or voted down. So there still is a lot of work to do on the House side. Now the Senate has one bill out of committee, the health bill. They've got another bill that hasn't come out yet at the Finance Committee. Those 2 bills will have to be reconciled into one in the same sort of process. And then both the House and the Senate have to vote on their own bills. And then they go to what they call conference. Because the Senate is on one side of the Capitol and the House is on the other, and we really don't mix at all. So once we have a bill together, we'll bring it into conference. And then out of that conference, they will make changes. Some things will go, some things will stay, and they'll come up with one bill that will then go back to the House and the Senate floors to vote, and then eventually go to the President's desk. So there's a lot of room to still make improvements in the bill. And so what I'm going to tell you tonight about, and what I'm going to reference when I speak, is about H.R. 3200, which is the House bill, which is the bill I've read. When it comes to the Senate bills, I have some general knowledge of them, but I have not read their bill out of their health bill, and I have not read what's coming out of the Finance Committee because we haven't seen it yet. So anyway, just so you know, there's still time to make improvements to the bill, and that's why we're here tonight, to get your input, to get your thoughts, your ideas. And if you don't like something, tell me how you think we should fix things. Give me some ideas so that hopefully I can take some ideas back with me to Washington. I do have that survey on my website also. You were all given, I think, the handout tonight of the survey. But if you want to go online and fill it out, or get your friends, family, and neighbors to fill it out, the more people we have fill out that survey from the 3rd District, the better for me. It's my own survey. It's not something that came out of my leadership. But I want to find out from my constituents what you think about all the different areas of healthcare reform going forward. So I encourage you to please give me your feedback, because there's a lot more information you can give me on that survey they're probably going to be able to give me in just a few minutes to ask a question. I want to address just a couple things that I see out there as statements that are not true. Right? That's how I have to put it. Statements that are not true, that I'm hearing out in the media, and they don't seem to be dying, even though we have pretty much refuted them with fact. The first I want to address is the end-of-life issue. Because I address this with every group I talk to, and there still seems to be people who don't believe me. But I can tell you, as a person who currently is dealing with parents who have terminal illness, that I would no more vote for a bill that would let the government decide if my parents were to live or die, than I would vote for a bill that would determine whether my children could live or die. This bill does not have anything to do with euthanasia. There is a section in the bill that allows you to sit down with your physician and let she or he talk with you about what your desires are for your end of life. Every 5 years, your physician can be reimbursed for that. Currently, maybe your physician does that with you. Maybe you go in and you say, I want to talk about this, I want to have a living will, I want to have what they call advanced directives, and maybe your physician will sit down and talk with you about that. Many physicians right now don't. If they do, they're usually there for some other reason. So they put in that code, and that's how they get reimbursed. This is just saying that physicians can be reimbursed for this. And so that you and your physician now can have that conversation, and you have control over your end-of-life issues.